Hey folks, I'm Steve Butler. There's many chairs available today, but none have the pedigree like the Wingback chair. It has a history that spans hundreds of years. Today we're building a wooden version of that classic. Come see how we do it here in the garage. Okay, let's have a look at today's project. This was known as a joiner's chair, meaning it was made up of planks and boards, the way you would assemble a chest or cabinet. We have a large panel for the back. We have a large panel that forms the seat, and two large panels that create the sides. The first thing we need to do is cut some boards to length and do some glue ups. Yeah, this type of chair is referred to as a joiner's chair, which is an old term, meaning there's no turned part. You had a joiner's chair and you had a turner's chair. So this is made of flat boards or planks, just like a cabinet or a chest. The first thing we're going to do is cut the boards to length that make up the back of the chair. We need to cut 3 pieces at 60 inches long. Make sure you're wearing eye protection. I'm using some hearing protection. Wear a dust mask if you're so inclined. I'm doing a lot of talking, so I'm not right now. Okay, let's cut our boards. There we go. Now keep those offcuts. We're going to use those to glue up and make up our seat panel a little later. Next thing we're going to do is go to the bench and glue up all our panels. Yeah, the wooden wingback chair is one of the oldest furniture forms. It first appeared in the 17th century, basically as a shortened version of the wooden settle or settee, which is a modern day love seat. Even though we're using off-the-shelf lumber and it's been kiln dried, you still want to check out the boards and orient them the way you really like them. This is going to be seen. It's a highly visible piece. It's the back of the chair. So you just might want to take your time, flip them over. You also want to consider the grain direction. Whether you want heart side up and down, you might alternate the grain so the boards stay even and don't buckle on you. So that being said and done, I've selected my boards. I'm now going to draw what's called a cabinet maker's triangle on the boards. And this just helps me lay it up properly when I'm gluing it up, keeps everything aligned. Okay, now I'm just going to flip this over and put a bead of glue on this board, lay it down and put a bead of glue on the other one. You want to make sure you have everything you need, a mallet in case these glue up a bit and you have to separate them, a rag, some extra clamps. Sometimes these won't stay flush and you need to just clamp the ends. Everybody needs a little help now and then. Okay, let's start our glue up. Take your time. Now, a lot of people will use a brush, take their time and brush this on. What I do is I put a bead of glue closer to the top edge. And then when I lay this down, the glue rolls down my board. And then I'll bring the other one up to it and I just slide them back and forth to create a little friction. It just helps. Flip this one up and do the same thing. You don't want to starve the joint. You definitely need enough glue on there, but too much, you'll spend more time cleaning up. Now, pine is pretty forgiving. Bring this up, slide it around. So there's a slight gap there. I can draw this closed with the clamp. If this was hardwood, I might need to take a pass over the joiner so that these sit nice and flush. Okay, let's go start with our middle board. You want to push down on them. Make sure the joints are flush. Okay. Now, I'm putting a clamp under, over, under, over. That way, when I apply pressure, the boards don't buckle, they lay flat. Okay, we're going to put this aside and we're going to glue up the panel that make up the seat of our chair. That looks good. I think 3 clamps will do it. Again, I've alternated them so they don't buckle. We have a good glue squeeze out, so I know we haven't starved the joint, that there's a good amount in there. We'll put this aside and we'll glue up the boards that make up our side panels. Okay, this one's a large glue up. We're gluing up 8-foot long, 1x8 pine, 4 pieces of it. And the reason I'm using 4 pieces is I want to get both side panels of the chair out of it. Okay, same thing. I've laid them up the way I want them, and I'm just going to draw some reference marks, cabinet maker, triangle. I'm just going to go ahead and glue up our boards. Now this can be a little awkward. If you want to use a brush, go ahead. Just putting a fine bead on here. Again, you don't need a lot of glue, but you want to make sure you don't starve the joint. You just want to see that fine bead come out like we saw earlier with the other glue ups. I just rub the boards together to create a little friction. That way when you tighten up the clamps, they don't slip or slide past each other. Especially if a larger glue up. Any help you can get is appreciated. Okay, I'm just going to start with our middle clamp. Just tighten it slightly. Make sure the boards are flush in the middle. Okay, I'm just going to add a clamp on the end. Line these up, and then it makes clamping the others a lot easier. Make sure they're flush. And then we're just going to go along and just make sure all the other clamps are flush and put them until we reach the end of the board. That looks great. There you go. You can see that squeeze out. It's perfect. It's what we're looking for. Make sure this is flush. And flat on the clamp. Just going to get another clamp, put it at the end, and we are good. Okay, what I like to do, I'm going to let this glue set and cure for about 20 minutes to half an hour. And then I'm just going to lift off the bead of glue. At that time, it becomes like silicone. You can manage it and you can lift it up. If you let this dry rock solid, you have to scrape that glue. And sometimes it can take a little piece of the wood with it. If you choose to wipe it off right away, I don't like doing that because with a damp cloth and water, it creates a slurry and sometimes can penetrate the wood, especially pine or an open grained wood. And that can really impede any finish you might put on later. So I think the other panels we glued up are ready for me to take the glue off, the excess glue off, and we'll let this one sit for a while. Okay, I took all of our panels out of the clamps. The first thing we're going to do is to cut the rectangle to size that makes up our back piece. It's 53 3/4 inches long and it's 20 inches wide. And the first thing I'm going to do is square up the ends. I'm using my table saw sled. It's perfect for cutting large panels. Make sure you're wearing some eye protection, some hearing protection. I'm going to put the dust collection on and we'll make those cuts. Okay, we have a nice clean cut there, making up our 90-degree angle. I'm just going to flip our panel end for end and measure 53 3/4 inches long and make that cut. Okay, we've cut our back panel to length. What I need to do is to cut it to 20 inches wide. But on the sides, there's a 5-degree bevel that's cut because our chair splays out at a 5-degree angle. That's where the sides meet the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the panel oversized at first, cutting a 5-degree angle on one edge. And then I'm going to set my fence to our 20 inches, flip our board over, and then cut the 5-degree angle on the other edge, keeping it at 20 inches wide. So you can see I've set my blade to a 5-degree angle. And if you prefer to do things by hand, you can draw your 5-degree angle on the edge of the boards, use a hand plane, and try that. Okay, let's make those cuts. Okay, there we go. That's a nice clean cut. So we have that one edge cut at 5 degrees. I'm just going to turn this around, set my fence to 20 inches, and make that rip cut. Okay, we have both edges of our back panel cut at a 5-degree angle. It's cut the size. We're just going to go to the bench and cut out our pattern. I went ahead and I made a full-size template of our back panel. I've just tacked it on with a couple of brads just so it doesn't move on me, and I'm just going to trace out the pattern using a marker. Okay, I'm using my saber saw and I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the bottom pattern of our back panel. Then I'll turn it around, clamp it, and cut out the top. That looks great. Just going to turn it around, do the top portion. Okay, that looks great. Just going to go ahead and we're going to cut out the shape and the profile of our sides. Yeah, this chair, essentially, it's the same construction as a 5-board chest. It's just butt joint and we tie it together with glue and brad nails. I also made a full-size template for the sides. And now you understand why I made such a large panel. I'm going to lay out my pattern and I've laid it out flush against the edge of my board. I'm going to trace around it with a marker and then we're going to flip it over onto the other side, trace it out, and then we'll cut it out as well. Okay, now just going to flip this over, get it oriented. Again, I want the back edge of my template flush against the back edge of my panel. And there we go, I'm ready to trace it out. There we go. That looks great. Just going to cut this out. Okay, these look great. That took a little bit of time and effort to do. Sometimes I had to unclamp it, maneuver it around on the bench, and able to get both of these out of a single panel. But it worked out well. I'm just going to scrape off the excess glue, touch it up with a sander, and then also what I need to do is bevel the long edge, the back edge of both of these sides at 5 degrees to meet the splay of the back. Okay, let's go do that. Yeah, the wingback chair is one of the most popular furniture styles or chairs that you'll find in a home today. Normally they're upholstered and they have cabriolet legs. Okay, I've set up my benchtop joiner and I've set the fence to 5 degrees. Now you can do this by hand with a hand plane. I prefer this method, it's quick. Now you just have to make sure you keep the side against the fence. I'm going to run the edge along there. I'm going to take about 2 passes on both. Okay, let's get started. Okay, that looks great. Now all we need to do is cut our seat supports to size. Well, you can build this out of any wood you like. It would look fabulous in a hardwood such as cherry or walnut. I like using pine because I tend to paint mine and then I distress them a bit to give them more of a colonial feel to it. Before I go and cut our front apron and our seat support to size, I just want to bevel the bottom edge of our back panel 10 degrees. That's the angle that our chair is on. That looks great. I just took a hair off. You don't need much at all. Okay, let's go tackle the apron and the seat supports. I went ahead and I cut and attached the seat supports. I then attached one side to the back with some glue and some brad nails. I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing to the second side. Just going to get this started at the top. These brads also act as a temporary clamp. Just work my way down. Okay, there we go. Now we're just going to attach the front apron. Okay, I went ahead and I cut our apron to size and I'm just going to go ahead and install it. Just want to make sure it's flush with your seat supports. And I'll come around later, fill all the holes, some putty, paint this up. It'll look beautiful. Okay, now we're ready to take a measurement right off of our chair itself, and we'll go and cut our seat to fit. Yeah, they were commonly referred to as fireside chairs just because of the large wings, which also directed the warmth of the fire on you, but it also protected you from the cold and the elements, kind of like a blanket or the chair literally giving you a hug. It's wrapping around you. There we go. Cut our seat to size, fits nicely. I just need to finish some sanding on it, and then I'll decide how I'm going to finish the chair. All right. As usual, I had a great time building this project with you. I hope you come back and see us here in the garage.
Just found your number, thought I'd drop you a line. You know I've been out on this road such a long, long time. Just wanted to let you know I'm doing just fine. But hey, I'm doing fine out here on the road. As long as I have friends to call, I'm never alone. Folks wonder how I take all that driving all the time. As long as I have friends to call, I'm doing just fine. Said, hey, did I wake you? I'm sorry if I did.
Wow. This is the comedy hour instead of a serious woodworking show anyways. Wow. Okay, serious face. This is serious stuff.